Over the next 10 years, Comcast is committing $1 billion through Project Up to reach tens of millions of people with the opportunities and resources they need to build a world of unlimited possibilities. Learn more at comcast.com/projectup.
Hi there, I'm Adam Kirbas from here in Ordu in Turkey. We are still in the pandemic. It is August here in the Black Sea region. You might have heard that we have a lot of flooding. It has been raining for a couple of days heavily, so I hope that everyone is doing fine. I mean, of course, it is pandemic as well, and hopefully that you can get out of this. Where we are here, I mean, it has been a lot with the fires, and now with the floodings in the north. Yeah. Today I will continue. This is again about my work as an author. Today I wanna talk about my screenplays Lettuce, Invert and Lifesaver. Last time I talked about this arduous task on how to arrange scenes. This is science in itself. I mean, like I said, I would be lying if I would tell you that I have solved it. Not at all. It is quite different still, especially on Lifesaver. I felt it. I mean, this is my personal feeling. I somehow improved it, the arrangement of scenes, and I worked with a structure, with a simple structure as well. I mean, this is always very difficult if you write very intricate stories. I mean, we talked about this. I mean, it is easy if you have one main protagonist. This is what all these hero journeys are all about. I mean, if you only watch, we said Batman, but the same is true for Harry Potter. The main protagonist is Harry Potter. Everything is about Harry Potter, and even in those scenes where Harry Potter is not present, it is about Harry Potter. The same is with Batman, with good and evil. This is the arc, so back and forth. When Bruce does something, then it has a reaction. You could see it like a ping pong or whatever. And all these hero journeys are pretty much built on that fact. And this is mainly from a small world to a bigger one. Only think about Lord of the Rings, the development from the Hobbit. Frodo, who becomes the ring bearer, and he has to go into a journey. So you could see this from a small world, from a well-known world, from an idol, then you go out to the world. I mean, this is many hero journeys start that way. Some you live in an idle world in their own land, or in Batman with Bruce Wayne. He had his family, his caring father, when they are in the parents. So he wanted to get out, and so he has this loving and caring family. They have it all, and then something occurs, something changes. The same is. You can see this as well as in Dumas, Alexandre Dumas, the Count of Monte Cristo. Edmond Dantes has everything. He has Mercedes, his betrothed. He's the second in command at the ship of the Pharaoh, and then the captain dies, and Edmond Dantes takes over the control of the ship, and he's been awarded by Monsieur Morel, so he has everything. And then those people who hate him, who envy him, they plot against him to throw him into jail, and then in this jail this big transformation occurs, which then changes the person who he is. So he becomes the Count of Monte Cristo anymore, and there is one very important, I mean, this is of course varies from movie to movie, but one great announcement is that when he's asked who is Edmond Dantes, then he responds Edmond Dantes is dead, and so this Count of Monte Cristo has become his public persona. This formidable wasteful lifestyle, and this is quite interesting though. So I would definitely recommend Dumas. Dumas is one of my favorite authors next to Victor Hugo. I mean, very great literature from French authors. It is Alexandre Dumas the elder. He had a grandson who was author as well. However, and this is how it all develops. This is if you want some sort of a structure where you go from a small world to a bigger one. This is in the Count of Monte Cristo. Edmond was just a mere fisher's boy or a peasant boy from near Marseille, so he was not wealthy or anything, but Monsieur Morel liked him, supported him. His father was poor, and so on, and then he envied a lot. And in the Count of Monte Cristo, this is as well as you learn a lot about moral values. I mean, what has been considered as valuable, your attitude towards life, and so on. This then re-emerges in Batman as well, where Bruce then doesn't want to punish someone who did wrong, and so on, and then he destroys the home of Ra's al Ghul, and then you see these moral values develop. This happens as well as in the Count of Monte Cristo. Edmond then realizes more and more that he still has feelings for Mercedes, as well as that he takes care of other people. Think about the daughter of Mehmet Tepeli in the novel The Count of Monte Cristo. So Edmond saves this daughter of the last vizier or the ruler of Egypt from slavery, frees her, helps her, and so on. So you could see all of this has a moral implication as well, and this is something you find in the Lord of the Rings as well with Frodo. I mean, he is of course the weakest. Hobbits, they are the weakest, and they live in an idle world, and yet they seem to be capable of bearing the ring. I mean, the hobbits, they are dwarves, almost children, so it has some sort of connotation to children, that children would not be debauched by the ring, that children would be in a way protected against Sauron and so on. So this plays a crucial part as well. So this moral development was also very important, and this is what you see at Batman as well. So this was in addition to what I said about this linear structure the last time. And in my first attempt in Lettuce, this screenplay plays in the Soviet Union. So Lettuce, this is maybe not a very good title, however, but it meant about roots, about peasantry. However, the titles is something you can always change. However, but in in Lettuce, I wanted to show this the moral values as well. So what it means. I mean, this is there was a great terror in the Soviet Union, especially under Stalin. Under Stalin, I mean, people were killed, people were disposed of. There was always new orders. I mean, Stalin himself actually didn't even know the names of the people who would be killed and so on. He just made orders or gave out orders that so many people need to be liquidated, and then his secret commanders and people who support him, people who benefit from him, that they would just execute these excuse me execute these orders. And this was actually, and this some sort of, you have to think about what, I mean, this is hardly imaginable, and we do not know much of the Soviet Union. I mean, this is again what you have to think about, many dictatorships and what happened there. So in these dictatorships, you could be always the next, you could be always deposed of. So no matter how complacent you are, in the end it does not help you. I mean, this is what I try to emulate or try to show in my screenplay with the main protagonist Dmitry Fugasin, who is actually comes from a family who did fight for the regime. His brother was part of the regime, but yet still this could not protect him, or still that he's been doubted, still he could be among those dead people as well as many people as well. So if you think that you are protected, if you think that nothing can happen to you, you are taught better and so on. And then we see that Dmitry Fugasin is actually an anti-hero because he was trained in a way. He was trained in a way to follow orders. This is what you see, is what I try to write down visually. I mean, there is one scene, this is pretty much in the beginning, which I wanted to portray and delineated it, and this would, that children, they are some sort of small and they run around freely. Then there are those people who are in or those young pupils who are in Boy Scout or female Scout uniforms, so they are being molded by the party. They have to emerge, or are the bearers of the party. And then this is the world of yesterday. So their parents and grandparents, these poor peasants, they still live in a different world. They still live in the past, or as well as in the future, because this meant that their world has in a way not changed, but and not only that, but that they are not really part of this world, that they are not really part of this feast, that they are still left outside, and that they can only watch how this machine, how this Soviet machine, how this communist regime pretty much devours their children, pretty much takes them in. So, and Dmitry Fugasin in his uniform is part of it as well. I mean, his mother, Marina Fugasin, is very proud of him. He gets a lot of attention, and she uses him to get a lot of attention. But then in the end, he cannot commit to the party or the party line, and this makes him actually an anti-hero in that sense, that he is not willing to liquidate his uncle and so on. And then he's saved by Svetlana, who has or was close with his brother, who was killed as well. So in this movie script, I wanted to show, what could happen in a life, or what it was probably be back in the days. Of course, we don't know it. We don't know much of it. Most of those things we know, but this is all some sort of tinted through the party lens, as well as so there's no real, there's only those survivors who can talk about issues in this communistic world, and of course the rest is lost to imagination. And from there I decided to write a series. I talked about the streaming war, and because of the streaming war, that it became so important, and that it's good from there. It makes sense in a way to write about, or rather, not only to some sort of please any streaming businesses or whatever, because for a matter of fact, right now I don't even know whether it would ever be published, or whether it would ever be adapted to a movie. It's out there. However, it's on what pad you can read it, you can do it. And however, but I think if you write a series, or some sort of extensive work, it can really allow you to tell a greater narration, a greater story. Because if you watch a movie, this is 1.5 hours, and most of the movies are 1.5 hours. Longer is not very advisable, because if you have movies which are longer, people will, especially if you are in the cinema, these things won't work properly. Because if you have, let's say, a movie which lasts 2-3 hours, then it is most likely that at half time some of the people will leave for the restrooms and so on. So you want to keep those people engaged. You want to keep those people agitated and so on, thrilled and grabbed to their seats. However, whereas in the streaming business, you can make longer movies, of course, because if you watch a movie on a streaming service, you can press the stop button. You can do whatever you want. You're watching it at home. You are not forced and so on. Of course, watching a movie in a cinema has advantages. This is true, but as well as it has disadvantages as well. One thing in a cinema is great is the sound. I do admit I was only a couple of times in a cinema. I just like to watch movies at home and alone. So I try to think about it and so on. But even though in this couple of times where I was in the cinema, it is understandable. The sound is great, the visual impact, and so you have a huge screen. This is indeed different, and this is something, of course, you have to pay attention to if you want to grab people's attention. This is with 3D and so on. But nowadays we have all big screen TVs, or people have big screen TVs. I don't watch, or I watch my everything on my mobile phone. However, but with this streaming business, things have changed. Things have become different, and of course, I think that the streaming business means something positive, because first of all, you can tell a greater story, because that TV shows is not confined to TV channels anymore. But one thing with the streaming business, what I want to say, which I think is very important, and because in some areas people are displeased with this streaming business, because they say that the streaming business harms the cinema, and so yeah, this is true. But however, in the beginning, I mean, the Netflix partially changed now, but in the beginning, streaming businesses were actually not that bad in that sense, because it would some sort of give B or C listed actors and actresses the chance to play in a movie, the chance to play a role in a production, or as well as minorities, because if you only see what is happening in Hollywood, these are the main movies, or one of the or those most significant movies which we all agree, or which everyone agrees were defining for a decade, or defining for Hollywood. They are mainly played by the same actors and by the same actresses. So right now in Hollywood you have only a few actors. Most of them are white, and they play pretty much in most of the movies. And of course, this has all economic reasons as well, because if you have in a movie a known actor, if you have in a movie people who have a good public persona and so on, then it is easier to some sort of promote the movie. So this means even though if the movie is not good, if the movie sucks, people will probably watch it because of the actor or the actress, because of the celebrity status this or that actor has. But of course, one thing becomes apparent as well. I mean, this is that always those good movies are played by the same actors and so on. And the streaming business thereafter gave you, in the beginning at least, gave you the opportunity that you see some new faces which wouldn't have been able to make it into a Hollywood movie. So I would not see and consider that the streaming business is bad for TV and so on. This is especially in Austria and in Germany, many thought about this. I think this is not true in that sense, that those people who want to protect themselves against new developments, these are mainly those people who profit from the old system. These are mainly those people who control the old world. I mean, it is true that Austria and Germany have no real film industry, however, but this is what I encountered with books as well. So if you want to publish a book, this is what I said once, and I will say this again. I mean, if you want to publish a book, or if you want to publish a book via a publisher, this can become very arduous, and it is most likely that if you are that you will struggle. I mean, I struggled, and in the end I had to publish all my books on Amazon.com as well as in Wattpad. I mean, of course, Wattpad is some sort of a question whether it is really self-published, but however, I consider all my stories on Wattpad as published, as self-published on this platform. So, and I said this once, and I will say this again, that thanks to Amazon self-publishing as well as to Wattpad, I am able to publish my books, my short stories, my screenplays, Lettuce, Invert and Lifesaver, and more are on the way. So I will continue. One screenplay I'm working at was Yamilias, and there are more to come. So definitely check it out on Wattpad. It is Artem Kirbas, and you will immediately find it. However, these new technological developments allow you to be creative, allow you to put your material out there. So without Amazon, without Wattpad, I most certainly wouldn't have been able to publish my books. So this is something you need to say. So even though if you hate Amazon, even though you don't like it, don't take for one thing that Amazon, even though it destroys normal retailers, especially brick and mortar retailers, nevertheless, I mean, Amazon, if you order things on Amazon, especially food, this is what people don't know. If you can buy and order cheap food on Amazon. I did this in Austria. So this is not all that bad. And as an author, I can only say, oh, of course, some of these books you find on Kindle platforms for $2-3. Well, I don't see how anyone could live of an income from or live off a book or an ebook or whatever, which only costs $2 or $3. However, but you can choose it freely. And I think so no matter what people say, this was a great development. This enabled creativity. Without Amazon, without Wattpad, I wouldn't have been able to publish anything, because in Austria as well as in Germany, this is not likely, or it was very unlikely that people wanted to publish my books, and when they wanted to publish it, this was rather not my or out of other reasons. I mean, I talked a lot about identity theft. It is still a big issue in Austria. My identity is still I couldn't confirm my identity to this very day, and this is one of the reasons why there is still a lot of issues going on in the past as well as in the future. However, but if you come back to screenplays, I mean, of course, what I talked about is that these screenplays had a personal effect as well, especially the screenplay I am writing right now, Lifesaver. I mean, this was of course of personal experiences. In Austria, I was struggling to make ends meet. I mean, this was the last year. Last year I was in Austria. The entire year I lived in Austria, or since April. However, and there I was really struggling hard to make ends meet. So everyone who thinks that the welfare state would support you, well, I don't see that. I mean, especially in Austria, this is pretty much racist, and if you can avoid it, you avoid the welfare state, because this is hideous. I mean, this is the way how you are being treated, despite the fact that my parents worked there, as if they paid taxes and so on. But the way these people treat you is just hideous, and if you can avoid it, then you don't want to have to do anything with the welfare state, as well as with Austria itself. I mean, I don't like Austria. I always said that, and if I could avoid it, I would not want to go back to Austria ever again. I don't want to live there. I don't want to be there. I don't want to be in Austria ever again. But it is all difficult. It is all easier said than done. However, and in this personal experience, I was struggling to make ends meet, and there I would some sort of sell my plasma. This is something you can do in Austria, and you get money for it. I mean, I said selling. It is called donation, and you get 25 euros for every donation. This does not sound a lot, but if you're struggling to make ends meet, then this is a lot. 25 euros for every donation. You are allowed to donate 50 times a year. This makes about 25 euros every week, and 100 euros a month. This is your food you can get out of it. Or your with this you can eat well. So especially if you know how to cook some stuff with cheap, or if you know how to cook delicious meals with cheap ingredients. So, and in Austria, there I was struggling to make ends meet, and there I would donate my plasma, get the money, and some of these experiences I shared in the Lifesaver. I mean, do not make a mistake about it. Even though I went in there, even though I donated my plasma, they don't treat you well there. They treat you pretty much like shit. I mean, this is the if you go in this plasma center in Austria, they do not appreciate your donation, despite the fact they talk about how important it is that you donate plasma, and that they would need that, and so on and so forth. But for a matter of fact, they pretty much treat you like shit. So, and this was the reason. I mean, if I wouldn't have gotten money, I wouldn't have donated my plasma. Seriously. So even though with the pandemic is going on, so if someone would have told me, why don't you donate plasma for free, then I would have said no, because of the reason that my plasma would have most certainly, or does, save only Austrians and Germans. Why? And it is pretty much clear that Austrians and Germans, they don't know what it has been like, because this is pretty much hideous. I mean, if you donate your plasma or blood, you some sort of expect that people treat you accordingly, that people appreciate you, that people like to see you, and so on, and not that you are being attacked racially, that you have to listen to racial slurs, that people even try to hurt you, try to hurt your vein, and that you have to deal with some very notorious and hideous people who just want to hurt you in a very mean way, and then so on and so forth. So this is something you don't expect, and I think this is something you should not do. So if you are being treated like that, you should have, I mean, of course, if you have enough money, if you have enough dignity, then you can walk away. But I couldn't. Of course, I did not donate plasma to help people. Why would I care about racists? No, I couldn't care less. As far as me concerned, those Austrians and Germans, they can drop dead. I don't care for any Austrian or German who dies on this COVID virus. So, and I wouldn't donate it without the money. However, but I could not avoid it. I mean, and this was the reason why I felt so helpless. I mean, and this is what I try to some sort of write or convey in Lifesaver, what I've been writing now. So this helplessness, or all these protagonists in the novel, in this screenplay plays. Originally, I wanted to write it as a novel, but because I don't have a laptop, or because my laptop was destroyed, I then decided to write it as a screenplay because of what pet is not very suitable for long and extensive novels, because this would have been a very extensive novel, and because you have to write it on the phone. I mean, on what pad you cannot write it, or at least, I mean, you can't write it on the browser or something. You really have to use the app. So, and this is pretty much arduous in a way. If you have to write pages after pages on your mobile phone, so without a keyboard you have only the screen. So in that sense it made sense, or it was the right choice and the decision to write it, make a screenplay out of it, and then publish it on Wattpad. And however, and there one key importance was for me to some sort of show this helplessness. I mean, you cannot avoid it. I mean, as well as some of these occurrences happened to me as well. I mean, I talked about it as well. I mean, this is pretty much hideous. If you sit in the university, or if you sit in the somewhere where you have to be there and you can't avoid it, and people next to you talk about how to get rid of you, how to harvest your organs and so on. So this is pretty much hideous, and I wanted to share this experience. And this is happening in Austria, in an industrialized world, I think I talked about it a great deal, that Austria is a failed state, is a hideous state, it is a despicable culture, it is depraved to its core, and this is pretty much inhumane in that sense. However, and this is it is not easy to some sort of convey this, but one key emotion, and this is how I built actually those screenplays, which I thought is some sort of a great connection and the arc of a story. If you have some sort of a ground emotion, one key emotion, which is some sort of grabs the scene, or is the motive and the theme of the screenplay, and this was the key emotion of Lifesaver, is helplessness. In a way, you can't escape it, you don't know what to do it, you feel trapped, and even though you what is there, even though you feel it, you can't avoid it because you need money and so on. So this is how I felt in Austria, and this gave me the idea for this screenplay, and more is to come, of course. However, but again, one key issue as well as was, I mean, I'm a migrant. I mean, this is, and I talked about it a bit. I mean, I'm a Turkish migrant who was born in Austria and grew up in Austria. I mean, German is my mother tongue. However, and I some sort of understood, I mean, if I would now write about issues, about specifically about Austria, about Germany, about Turkish migrants, what's been happening there, people would not be very much interested, because what does an American or someone in Great Britain know about Turkish migrant and so on? But then I discovered one thing, that in the US, as well as in some parts in UK and as well as in Australia, this is actually pretty much similar. Or what a struggle that his panic community has in the US is pretty much similar to the struggle some people from the Middle East have in Europe being accepted. And this was one of the reasons why I said I wanted to translate these migrant identities, or this my migrant identity as a Middle Eastern man, into English as well, so that it's not being lost. So this means that it wouldn't have it wouldn't have been understood as much if I would have wrote it from a Turkish migrant perspective, because then people would have said, yeah, this is something confined only to the Turkish community. This has nothing to do with the overall narrative. Now, this was I wanted to make it understandable in general, that this is not only confined to the Turkish community. What is been happening there in Austria as well as in Germany now, this is it is a human issue, and that's why I chose some sort of Hispanic, or this is the reason why many protagonists, especially in Lifesaver, are Hispanics. So in order to translate this migrant identity I have as a Middle Eastern man into English as well, so that it does not get lost, because I stopped writing in German. And this, of course, this is something I have to mention as well. And this is, I don't speak Spanish, so I had Spanish in school, yes, but I was a lazy slug. I never really learned Spanish. The only thing I know about Spanish, or still remember about Spanish, is probably the headline of the first lección, and this is El Mundo del Español, and this is pretty much all the Spanish I know. So I don't know Spanish. I don't speak Spanish. I know a little bit French because I had it in school longer. But however, so despite the fact I write about the Spanish community in the US, despite the fact that in this screenplays as well as in my novels, the Latino community plays a crucial role, this is a bit complicated, because it is actually meant that this is part of this Middle Eastern identity I have, and which I did want to some sort of maintain, did want to preserve and translate into English as well, especially the perspective from a migrant point of view. I think this is very important, and I knew a little bit of sociology on it, or I studied part of sociology and so on, and I then understood more and more that the Hispanic community in the US pretty much has the same struggles as the Middle Eastern community in Europe as well. Because one thing I said about this is always in odds, because we from the Middle East, we are actually not black. This makes it very difficult in a way to align yourself with the black narration, or with the narration of black people. No, we are still white, but it is some sort of a culturally difference. There is a cultural difference which is being then maintained by the host society. However, we will talk about this in detail the next time. This was Adem Kirbas from Ordu. We are still in the pandemic in this August day, and I hope that you get through all this disaster, what is happening around us. Bye.
Over the next 10 years, Comcast is committing $1 billion through Project Up to reach tens of millions of people with the opportunities and resources they need to build a world of unlimited possibilities. Learn more at comcast.com/projectup.